Satnam, galactic star family of light, all of my interstellar travelers, all of my soul family and soul genetics that have attuned to their starseed origins, welcome back to my channel, Indigo Angel. If you are new, welcome, and don't forget to hit the notifications button. This is a post full moon energy update. I did have to wait to put this out because the intensity of this full moon was by far one of the most intense full moons that I have experienced in a while. So I really had to process and work through a lot of things myself before I could kind of wrap my mind around what messages were needing to come through. So this update is for the Mayan time cell of January 10th through February 6th. I'm also going to start incorporating the Kemetic and sidereal calendar, which the dates aren't really too far off from the Mayan. The time cell in the sidereal and Egyptian calendar would be from January 9th to February 7th. So they're literally just like one day off. And then also the sidereal and the Kemetic calendar goes through 3 10-day decans because it's basically ruled with a triplicity value of 3 decans per time cell that the moon actually stays in that time space. But today I'm just gonna stick with the Mayan. Incorporating the sidereal calendar, I'll have to probably go through and explain the decans and what these mean in not only what it's been converted to Western belief systems, but what it also means in the original form of the Egyptian belief systems. As this particular cycle has been one of intensity, playing out of heavy karmatic distortions. So basically everything that is not of a 5th dimensional consciousness, anything that is not of coming from a place of love, honor, integrity, unpure intentions, unpure thoughts, anything of this vibration is being internally magnetized for you to see it, for you to then collapse that reality. So for many of you, this could mean, you know, a very small to an outrageous ego death. This could be channeling and living in your own Bardo planes as you work through this polarity within inside yourself. And you're doing this in your 3D presence. So many may be, even though you're on the ascension path, you're on the Adashi path of ascension, you are still contracting and expanding. So when you're going through these contraction states where you're being affected diametrically by the moon, so when you're going through this contraction phase, you're basically squeezed, your body's basically being squeezed, it's being compressed, which is basically photonic light that's expanding inside of your physical body, inside your molecular structures, your atoms, your nucleuses, your microtubules, your neuron system. And this photonic light is basically expanding anything of density, anything that you're keeping inside of your organs, because this is where we store these densities. This is where we store low vibrational emotions, regrets, grievances, even karmatic type entanglements, hooks. All of this is inside of the physical body. So as the body compresses, squeezes, and expands in geometric photonic light, then this exacerbates in your physical reality and actually plays out for you to see it. That's why a lot of times we don't even really have conscious choice. Even though we have conscious choice, if we are not constantly working on the physical energy body, those choices are being directed and guided for us through these intense full moons. So you may be being accelerated and thrusted into a projected or pre-telepathic, prophetic, futuristic timeline that you may have already envisioned. You may have already actually seen this coming, but you cannot stop the train. It's already gained accelerated momentum, and therefore it's thrusting you into that futuristic timeline or that reality for you to then experience through these intense resonant moons. And this thrusting is just basically to rapidly shed what no longer benefits, what's no longer of truth, and what's no longer harmonic to the highest outcome to every individual involved, because universal energy accounts for every light source energy that's involved. So even though it may be a setback in your physical reality, it's truly attached to the futuristic outcome of what is in the highest good of everybody who's involved in the situation. So it's basically just creating and removing space for soul growth. So you may quickly, like I said, be having fruition of these realities that you had just recently seen in dream states or in downloads or in meditation, and now manifesting the realization of what or why you experienced that when you did. A lot is being revealed right now as the Kundalini energy of the planet has risen to this heightened activation and perceptions due to the relationship between the earth and the moon. And that's why I follow the Mayan calendar. It is ultimately linking us to our most natural state, even though the moon is an artificial satellite that was placed here like 13,000 years ago or something like that. It doesn't matter. It's still a part of our gravitational field. It is still what controls, it is the life force. So we have to honor that, I feel, first and foremost, equal and in addition to the solar aspects. So as our Maya or our illusion goes from waxing to full to waning, the experience of the illusion within intensifies. So it's basically the misperceptions of our lives. We discover that, someone is not what or who they appear to be. We discover that things are not what we thought they were. We are being misled by our own expectations and judgments of ourselves, because ultimately all of our judgments are what we judge ourselves on so harshly. And so, through these cycles, we may suddenly receive the energetic karma we manifested on the new moon. We slip unconscious to the choices, and this is all of the Maya. This is all of the moon. Some moons are more intense prophecy-fulfilling cycles, and through pagan and Mayan rites, when this occurs, this is honored as a triple goddess activation. So this last moon that we experienced was a triple goddess activation, where the feminine fulfilled prophecy of a triple goddess or white goddess, which would be maiden, mother, crone aspects as one. She is her past, present, and future self in her ripest divinity. The goddess essentially turns into the serpent-feather head, as this triple goddess flames is the passion that all feminine bodies defend and honor within psychically, intensely, intuitively, and primal. The moon's invocation is the life force that drives and affects the complexities of the human psyche, all human behavior, as well as all cycles of life and death experienced by all who dwell on Earth. This is including weather patterns, the seasons, all life cycles from the smallest ant on the ground all the way to the planetary body. So this full moon was extremely special because it had 4 spectrums of light that gave way for the red hue. Like you all already probably know, it was a wolf moon, super moon, lunar eclipse. But one thing you might not know is it was also the closest point to Earth in its orbit. So it was making the gravitational diagmatic relationship intensified and magnified. And these increased intense magnetics in the body have been known to drive, people mad into lunar lunacy. So when this happens, you'll notice more things like suicides, increased crime rates, disagreements between family and friends, relationships breaking up. Whatever was lurking in the shadows, like I said, is being contracted, it's being compressed, and it's being squeezed until it bursts. This dynamic recalibration of electromagnetic systems is experienced individually and on a global scale. But now we're coming into a new phase of the cycle. We should have felt a release of this energy, a lightening of the force as we now slither into the frequency of attunement itself. because this time cell is all about attuning. And in order for us to attune in the level of creation or manifestation, it has to be very physically felt for us to understand the attunement of frequency itself. So the Mayan creation tone for this time cell being resonant. So you may have gone through rigorous emotional body release or Akashic record clearing, and that's what a Akashic record clearing is intense emotional body release, so karmic cycles. And we can now channel and inspire as resonant beings using more discernment through the variations and experiences of our moods that shifted with the moon. We pay more attention and are more aware to the alignments in any given situation. We instinctually read resistances in the body, deflections, humility, humility, vulnerability, subconscious thoughts, blockages, and our higher self processes this psychic data. It's kind of like, you know, your laser-like senses, as we all just sharpened our magnetic moral compass going through the rigorous definition of this magnetic energy through this full moon. So that's basically why the ancient civilizations such as Maya, Druids, Egyptians, Polynesian, Chinese, Native American tribes tracked the seasons, solstices, equinoxes by the lunar months opposed to the solar calendar. These are 28-day cycles that the moon orbits 13 times a year, the number 13 bringing us into cosmic galactic planetary harmony and synergy with our truest elemental core of being. This is ultimately about a sovereign relationship with time. 13 representing all tones of creation, which are a fractal nature or spiritual mechanics of the invisible forces that ultimately spin off the crystalla tones that make up the crystalla body, which all frequency merges to become diamond light. 13 synchronizes heaven and earth by embracing the presence of earth. You essentially activate the kundalini, which is experienced as feminine, alpha, omega force of nature, expressed through the spiral rising of ongoing etheric pranic circulation, endurance, transcendence, and universal connectedness. And this is what I loved about the ancients. They understood, the ancients also understood to understand the illusion is to understand the unseen. To understand the unseen and whispers of shadows and unknown is to dive into the aspects of one's own parallel world. It's not only bringing you into fourth dimensional perceptions of space-time, but also into an expanded consciousness realm on Earth that dwells as the unseen life force to all connection to death, sex, birth, regeneration, incarnation, fertility. The moon essentially awakens the serpent energy in Earth, aka the Earth's kundalini and the original templating of space-time, the alpha omega force of creation. It's the androgynous snake eating its tail. It's the serpent slithering on the ground through the dirt and it's belly to belly with the earth. So it's channeled through this animal archetype as the energy itself is rhythmic and tantric and slithery and forceful. The snake also symbolizes the umbilical cord joining human to Mother Earth, mother to baby, and ultimately cradling the spiritual umbilical soul incarnation through the elemental bodies and plasma. And through this genetic soul incarnation is where starseed remembrances, belongings, incarnations, and missions are implanted into the DNA. This is in the pre-zygote formations in incarnation. Ultimately, cell division processes. This is the life force mechanics behind creation itself, which breaks off into many meta, subatomic, and atomic formations of creational geometrics, tones, and light fractal structures, primarily working with quantum spirit elements such as gold, copper, helium, oxygen, hydrogen, etc. Periodic elements are spirit elements, especially the lighter forms of the elements like helium, hydrogen, carbon, this is what sun and gold, this is what stars are made of. This awareness is basically like taking the elements from the stargates themselves, identifying and attuning to the frequency of the quantum elements within your own body, and using this as an attuning process within your own elemental awareness of your own body. And then here's where these elements is where honestly where it holds most of the information of that star. So like you'll know everything about a star basically off of the color, off of the hue, off of the elemental compound. Like if it's a giant red star, like a super red giant, you know that star is coming to the end of its life. So it's just like deciphering through this information, and in that information is where it holds you know, the star's race and the star's form of consciousness and how this has come to incarnate onto Earth until you get to the core of the being itself. And I'm going to get into the core here in just a minute, because these are actually wormholes to cosmic maps that basically connect, kind of like the underground root system of the trees. But kind of getting back to this moon, how I was saying it was a particularly high Kundalini activation and rising in the awareness. So if those of you who don't know much about the Kundalini, this is something that rises from the soles of your feet or from the base of the spine. It rises from the inside, the center of your bones and even your teeth, inside the vast realm of the quantum mineral and elemental bodies. It rises through the iron nickel silicate plasma sheath, also magnesium and calcium. So I myself experienced a major Kundalini activation through this full moon that I felt conjured up through the ley lines planetarily. I felt it come through the ages, the eras, the yugas, the ancestors, the root races, skeletons, buried civilizations, all through the bones of Earth. Through the dirt itself, to then move this energy up through the center core of my body. And I embodied the triple goddess energy, feeling the serpent rising inside my chakras, showing me sex and how we are all essentially sexual organ receptors that feed the bigger life system. The rhythm of desire feeds all life cycles, primal energy, pranic energy, chi. We are truly androgynous expressions of bioenergy trapped in the illusion of male and female. All here to serve like possessed belly dancers to the greater creation experiment that begun through the center core of Earth through an alchemical process of internal bodies of the iron core. And one way you can see this is through the aurora. And I did a Lyran video about the aurora. If you'd like to go check that out, it helps explain more of what the aurora actually is. But the aurora is basically the continuum or the insulation to the Amenti sphere. And you can see the changes in the solar magnetic energy observed in the changes in the aurora. So the aurora will tell us the magnetic relationship with the moon, the sun, and the earth, which ultimately is a portal system. It's a navigational system through the spheres of Amenti that links us to future Earth, that leads you to the universal galactic highways of interstellar travels, that ultimately allows the passing of genetic codes to and through that can endure portal transit, taking you straight to the metagalactic core, going from lower to higher density forms, old Earth to new, 2, 3, 4, and 5th dimensional morphogenetic microevolution, all planetary bodies, solar bodies, maintaining their gravitational rotation, force field magnetic, tethered biosolar spheric, maintaining connection through the iron nickel silicate center. This diagmatic relationship is about going inside your quantum elemental bodies that propel you into a perceived parallel universe and multiverse living, breathing blueprint. Opening these portals connects you to all Stargate systems, which is ultimately becoming a Stargate portal yourself through your heart chakra. Every Stargate, every heart, every toroidal field, every living planetary body Kazimir-Kovic geometric implant and a quantum elemental composition that your ascended DNA can and will activate and attune to claircognitively and geometrically. Each Stargate system is like the biospheric network of trees, like I said before, all connecting through a portal system, and each aspect of ascension is a preparation for more multi-universal truth. Each Stargate system is an elemental universe, a parallel world, an expression of source consciousness, extraterrestrial foundations and incarnations on Earth, representing specific ancestral lineages, galactic civilizations, eras and reigns of power, level of planetary consciousness, root races, guardian founder races, and soul genetic starseed awareness and coding. If one can attune into the entire timeline of Earth as your past lives, all incarnations and existences on Earth, you can see and navigate the star maps of all eternal galactic cosmic spiritual spheres and geometrics, because that is how we move. We can actually go within our own plasma as you transcend to these different phases of light body phases. So you go through a crystalline phase, you go through a plasma phase, a plasma crystalline phase. You also go through a radial phase, which is atomic, which is radiation, which is, I think, ultimately a higher form of gamma frequency, which I just don't feel like they've found a name. Metatomic gamma frequency, okay? And basically, this is how you can turn yourself into an orb and you can actually travel outside of your body. But this is really going into it, and I am working on these aspects myself. So I just want to talk a little bit about the solar cycle. I am delving into that just a tiny bit. It throws us off of the moon, but basically 2019 is bringing in the new 11-year solar cycle, where the sun's magnetic field changes polarity. At the peak of its cycle, the sun's inner core reorganizes itself. It basically flips the north and south poles, and the plasma charged magnetic gas rotates inside and creating electromagnetic currents that generate magnetic fields, which create the giant sunspots that we see on the sun, the coronal flares, the solar flares, the mass ejections, bulging magnetic fields coming through the surface. The peak of its cycle, the sun will actually flip its poles and be a fully magnetic sun, and its mass maximum of 200 sunspots. So when this happens, expect changes in the weather, the elements, human behavior. The magnetic field will actually be weaker. This energy may be the underlying force to the Earth's North Pole moving from Canada towards Siberia by 2020. It will be in the center of the Arctic Ocean. So when these shifts happen, 2020, we're going to be expecting a lot of winds from the north as the sun creates rising wind, and the magnetic sun will refine the realities on Earth and humans from the north. In Mayan beliefs, the north refines, the south ripens, the east initiates, and the west transforms. So pay attention to the direction of the winds. This will show us the interrelationship with Earth and her magnetic communication with solar and lunar intelligences. So I just want to sum up my energy update with giving you the galactic portal activation days. So just, you can use these galactic activation portal days as aspects of your spiritual practices. If you are consciously expanding consciousness and awareness to quantum fractal measurements of space-time, then you want to actually use these accelerated days to assist with your evolution and consciousness into the awareness of being able to morphogeneticize yourself into these new capacities of realms of awarenesses. So basically, these days invite you into the gateways because they do amplify the awareness of the energy of flow and the information exchange. So within the 260-day galactic cycle, there are 52 portals. These specific kin form the loom of the Maya, which is a bilateral symmetry pattern that reflects the basic patterns of our DNA double helix. So this is integrating the galactic code and all ascension codes of light into the genetic code of life. This portal formation is a resonant structure linked to the activation of our full DNA potential. So full DNA potential, there you go. So I missed the first one. January 17th and January 18th were back-to-back galactic portal activations. Yesterday, January 21st was one, but we also have one Saturday, January 26th, and January 29th is another galactic activation portal days. And don't forget, the new moon is going to be on February 4th. So stay conscious, stay aware of your decisions, and hold your highest vibration as possible on that new moon, so that way you have an accelerated thrust on a high vibrational timeline into the manifestation of the next full moon. So I'd like to just say Namaste Sat Nam. Thank you for watching my channel. Thank you for all of your love and support. And until my next energy update, have a wonderful, beautiful day.